I've been on Noom for 4 months. I've lost 27 pounds, and I feel like I got my life back.
Please don't close your eyes tonight. I need you by my side. Just hold on, baby. I'm looking for you lately. It's been a little crazy, but maybe that's okay. Beauty like the sunrise, eyes like the moonlight. Hold my hand, it's alright, yeah. Love me like a ghost. With you I get chills. Ooh, I love the thrill, oh yeah. Love me like a ghost. Never let me go. Walking through these walls, oh yeah. Love me like a ghost. With you I get chills. Ooh, I love the thrill, oh yeah. Love me like a ghost. Walking through these walls. Never let me go.
What is going on, everybody? Happy New Year to everybody. And just like that, we're having technical difficulties because I can't see my face because it is blurry. I do apologize. What a way to start the stream, guys. Like I said, Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully we can start out the new year by making some money. Just a great year all the way around. I know last year was a roller coaster ride for most people, especially for our business. We started out with some esports and have ended with some NBA. So definitely excited to continue the trend, guys. We have been blasting off. Business has been going great. Happy New Year to you, TJ. Thank you for holding the fort down yesterday. Did a great job. Let's go ahead and just start up by jumping right into the slate. It is 10 games. It is massive. So we have a lot to cover. Let's not waste anybody's time here. Let's start up by going over the injuries, TJ, if you don't mind. Let's start with the Chicago Bulls, I guess. We can really start anywhere, it feels like. But let's go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm going to cut you off there just because I have two quick injuries. Grayson Allen actually is now considered a game-time decision, and LaMarcus Aldridge is out.
All right, LaMarcus Aldridge will change things up in San Antonio. As we know, we had some good plays come out of San Antonio the last time he was ruled out. Do you want to go ahead and start there? Do you want to start with the Bulls?
To be honest, I was sitting there and I saw that Drew Eubanks got added to the player pool, and I was very confused as to why. And then I checked Roto and just knew that our guy was out. So the only interesting thing with Aldridge being back now, or being out again, excuse me, is that Derek White actually makes his season debut tonight, and we're unsure if he's going to be on a minute restrictions right now, Matt, or not. But so far in the year with LMA off the floor in 70 minutes, DeRozan is a 1.45 fantasy point per minute and a 26.6% usage rate. Gets a 3.7% usage bump. Also, DeJounte Murray gets a 4.2% usage bump. He's averaging 1.51 fantasy points per minute and a 29.5% usage rate, and that's also in 70 minutes. So that's about 3-ish games, I would say, in terms, maybe 2.5 in terms of minutes with Aldridge off the floor. So I immediately like both of those guys.
Yeah.
And now we obviously have to keep our eye out on Jacob Podol or Jacob Hurdle, however you want to pronounce his name. Matt and I can go back and forth on that. But yeah, he's definitely going to be, in the mix at 4,500. And then Drew Eubanks also. If Jakob Poeltl he was in such foul trouble against the Lakers when they played him 2 days ago, and we have another matchup against the Lakers when he actually played in the fourth quarter and he was in foul trouble, but didn't actually foul. He was very good in that fourth quarter. So he's definitely going to be in play too at 4,500. So just adding to the mix of injuries that we already have. So yeah, that would be the Spurs pitcher currently. We'll go back to that.
Yeah, and I still think, TJ, the ownership's going to be more on some of these other plays just because I think they're more obvious. Jacob Hurdle at $4,500 is definitely going to be more of a tournament play, in my opinion. Again, we're going to wait for the ownership, but DeMar DeRozan, a great tournament play. I think his ownership's going to go up just a little bit. As you guys just heard, he has a significant usage boost. There's pretty much nobody else on the team that takes as many shots as he does. I think he's in a fantastic spot. 11.2% ownership right now, but I think that will be shifted upwards against the Lakers, which is not that bad of a matchup right now. It's expected to be competitive. 229.5 over under, so definitely like that. So starting out with the San Antonio news, starting out with a bang there. Do you want to go ahead and go over Memphis next?
Well, let's go to Chicago because that's where you wanted to start off with, and then I completely cut you off. So I'm sorry. So yeah, so we still have Archie Diacono, Hutchinson, Markkanen, and Satoransky all out due to COVID. So looking at the box score that we saw from yesterday against the Washington Wizards, obviously this is a back-to-back for the Bulls. Thad Young did make his season debut, played 27 minutes off the bench. He was 7-12 shooting at 15 points, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds. Looked fantastic off the bench. And where are you, Thad? At 3,500, Matt, currently projected at 24 minutes. I definitely think he's a viable option in terms of cash. Obviously, when we're looking at this game, I understand that the Bucks are 15-point favorites, and that should obviously scare you. But if they can keep this somewhat competitive, yes. If they can keep this somewhat competitive, I think you do have a case at some of the Chicago value. Even Levine at 7,600, I think is a pretty good play. More of a GPP play for me, but I actually don't hate him in cash, but I think there's way better plays. So actually, let's retract that. Definitely more of a tournament play.
Levine,
the two guys that I am
tournament.
Yeah, the two guys I am looking at though that I think you could utilize in cash are going to be Otto Porter at 5,600 and are going to be Thad Young at 3,500. I think those are the two guys that I'm looking at that I could see myself rostering in cash and feeling okay about it. And I think my third favorite play from this game is going to be Levine, but that is definitely more of a tournament play.
Completely agree with you. The big question, TJ, was whether Thaddeus Young was actually going to play minutes in the last game. He did get a heavy dose of minutes, got enough to hit value. 27 minutes at $3,500. He really has to try hard to not hit value there. He's a great fantasy point per minute player, specifically 0.92, which is right around 1 fantasy point per minute. So you just got to think that the math works out there. I think Thaddeus Young, even if Milwaukee blows these guys out, I think he's one of the more obvious plays on the slate, showing 22.7% ownership in cash. He should be a lot higher owned. It's like I said, he just has to really try to not hit value to not hit value. It's gonna be difficult to not hit value tonight for him. $3,500 is a plug and play. Otto Porter though at 11.3% ownership. You said you would recommend him as cash. I can agree with that. Averaging 1.3. Go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe as a last piece, I definitely have way more interest if I am going to cash in Thad Young than I would in Otto Porter.
But like I said, averaging, I think, 1.3 fantasy points per minute and an 86 minute sample size. Definitely like him. I think he's going to be productive. Again, there was a big hesitation there to see how many minutes he was actually going to play. He played 31 in the last game. We know Otto Porter Jr. is a great fantasy point per minute player just in general. And when you add him into the mix of this roster, there's really no other options other than Kobe White, other than Thaddeus Young, Zach LaVine. And those guys really don't stand out much to me in terms of actual usage. Otto Porter Jr., a great ball player. Shot 10 for 14 last game for what it's worth. Played 31 minutes, so I don't think there's a minute restriction there. I think he's a fantastic play, and quite frankly, I don't mind him, just like you, as a last piece for cash, but he's definitely a small GPP option, and it's showing a bad matchup right now. I guess technically he'd be playing on Giannis. I don't know if he's going to be put into the starting rotation yet. Right now, they're projecting him to be in there. Yesterday, he did play, so I guess he would be on Giannis, so that part scares me. But again, $5,600, a very, very good fantasy point per minute player.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Where are you looking for cash, TJ?
Washington.
Washington. All right, let's talk about, is that the highest over-under on this? No. Yes. No. Second highest.
Nope.
All right, so let's go ahead and move
Not
there.
even close, actually.
Yeah, I know, because I forgot about
because
that
we have
other.
Brooklyn and Atlanta. So with the Wizards, it's a pretty clear picture as to what we're gonna need, especially with Russell Westbrook being out in this back-to-back. So the last game in which Russ did sit on a back-to-back, we saw Raul Neto get the start, played 32 minutes at point guard and absolutely crush value. We also saw Bradley Beal rack up 39 minutes in a pretty competitive game against the Orlando Magic. Also to note, Avdia played 36 minutes, but with Hachimura being back today, I don't know how that's going to affect his minutes, Bonga's minutes, Troy Brown's minutes, Bertan's minutes. So I definitely have a lot of interest in the Wizards backcourt. And then I also have some interest in Thomas Bryant at the 5 for sure. So when we're looking at the Wizards so far this year with Russell Westbrook off the floor, Beal gets a 1.6% usage bump, averages 1.31 fantasy points per minute, and a 36.7% usage rate. Raul Neto actually gets a 1.1% usage bump. He's averaging a 1.13 fantasy point per minute with Russ off the floor so far this year, and garners a 21% usage rate. I don't think he is a 1.13 fantasy point per minute player, just in my eyes. I get with Russ off, it's going to be a little higher, but even still, it's more of like a 0.8, 0.9 type fantasy point per minute
good
type player. But still, at 3,400 starting and getting 28 to 30 minutes if this game is competitive, and it's already pegged to be, one of the higher over-unders like Matt did allude to, currently sitting at 234. Definitely love him as a cash play. He's going to be a lock for me tonight. I obviously also like Bradley Beal. I think those are two guys that you can just plug in your cash at 3,400 and 9,400 respectively, playing against Minnesota. So that's definitely where I'm looking at. A guy like Thomas Bryant isn't really carrying too much ownership. I want to see where I have Thomas Bryant at right now. Where are you, Washington? Thomas Bryant currently sitting at 16.4% ownership, going up against Naz Reid, who is absolutely putrid defensively. So I think Thomas Bryant could have an absolute monster game with Cat missing, obviously being sidelined for a couple weeks, and with Naz Reid jumping in at the center position. I really like Thomas Bryant as a tournament play. So for cash, I really like Raul Neto. I really like Bradley Beal. I like Thomas Bryant for tournaments. And then these other guys, I'm really unsure just because Hachimura is, back in the mix. So it is pretty unclear besides those three guys.
Yeah, I think Hachimura is going to actually hurt some of these players of Dia. I think that's how we pronounce it, without the J. Neto,
Dia, Bertans, yeah.
It's not going to affect Neto, and I don't think it's going to affect Bradley Beal. And
If anything, it would affect Bryant out of those. I think it would affect Bryant potential, just rebounds, things like that. And that's even dependent on what kind of minutes we're going to see. He's pegged at 24. Yeah. Obviously, his first game of the year, so we'll see what happens.
Neto is the second most obvious play on the slate. It's not the most obvious. Him and Thaddeus Young, you can pretty much do a toss-up. I think that Neto, just because we know he's going to get those point guard minutes. Last game, he only played 22 minutes, and he got 29 points. So for what it's worth, a fantastic play and a pace-up spot. I don't really need to talk about these guys anymore. Bradley Beal, I think he's a borderline cash GPP option. Like, I wouldn't hate it if you faded him, just because 9,400 TJ. It's like it's that awkward range of like, is it too much?
Bradley Beal,
yeah, for Bradley Beal, yeah.
Oh, you're crazy.
Yeah, no, I still like him in cash. It's just that awkward range because $9,400 is just a little too high for me. But again, the pace of the game, I'm totally for it. For playing him in that cash, that last minute cash spot. But let's go ahead and switch over to the other side of the ball here, because D'Lo at $7,500 in this pace up spot is just like, he's so obvious in my opinion. 32.7% owned. Naz Reid 23.8% owned, and then Ricky Rubio $5,200. Who are you looking at on the other side of the ball here for Minnesota?
Yeah, so Washington just in general in terms of guarding guards have been bad this year and, last year as well. So it's definitely something we like to target, especially in an uptick type game situation with that high over under. So yeah, D'Lo just at that price tag to me at 7,500 is fairly cheap. He's gotten off to a pretty rough start to start the year. But even still, if this game's going to be competitive, a lot of the offense is definitely going to rely on a guy like D'Lo. Naz Reid is somebody that I can see myself going back to as a last piece in cash at 5,200, carrying a good amount of ownership. Got benched, like I said, against the Clippers 3.5 minutes into that second half because he was getting absolutely blistered by Serge Ibaka. Didn't see the floor for the rest of the game. So he needs to be somewhat competent on the defensive side of the ball in order to get minutes. And if he can get minutes, he's a very productive fantasy point per minute type player. 0.96 fantasy points per minute with Cat off the floor.
That's
so
this
around
season,
a 1
right?
fantasy point per minute. Right.
Yep.
That's this season. Yep. So a little bit of a smaller sample size. I'm pretty sure last year he
Last
was
season,
a
he
little
averaged
bit higher.
1.1.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to take that median, we can call it. Yeah. So he's a 1 fantasy point per minute this year. So we can call it a 1.1. He can definitely pay off that price tag for sure. It's just if the minutes are going to be there. Like I said, if he can be competent on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt. So for cash, I do like D'Lo. I do like Naz Reid. Rubio's carrying ownership as well. If he's going to see the minutes, I'd like him at 5,200. That's a very cheap price tag. Again, guy that's gotten off to a pretty lackluster type start to his year, but his price tag has come down from the 6,600 that we saw in opening night against Detroit, now down to 5,200. Should be able to pay off that price tag in this type of matchup against the Wizards. I also have some interest in guys like Jared Culver, more of a tournament play for me. Shot 0-10 against the Clippers last game. You would expect him to come out and be a little bit, maybe not more aggressive, but take some smarter shots and try and, see that ball actually go through the hoop. And yeah, so I definitely have some interest in these Minnesota guys. Malik Beasley is a guy that's currently carrying 2% ownership that I'm going to absolutely love in tournaments at 5,800. So definitely some interest in this Minnesota side of the ball and Washington as a whole. I think this is a great game to target for cash.
Yeah, you got to think Naz Reid's going to get those minutes. I love, how much I love Naz Reid, just averaging 1.1 fantasy points per minute. And when you take the superstars off the court from last season, like Jeff Teague, obviously not there anymore, he actually averaged more. So it's going to be interesting to see where he sits fantasy point per minute wise. And of course, he's not gotten off to the best start this season. In this high-paced game, I think there's some sharp plays here. Naz Reid, like I just said, Ricky Rubio's price tag, like you said, is way too low, but all their ownerships are right below that cash range. I think the obvious cash play, if you can fit him in, is going to be D'Lo, because you got to think who's taking the shots on this team. It's got to be him. 32.7% ownership is what they're showing him in GPP's. So, sorry, my camera's having focus issues again. I don't know why that is. Sorry guys, if you're not drunk if you're looking at me right now. But yeah, so I think D'Lo's I think D'Lo is the most obvious play for cash. Naz Reid is the second most obvious, and then everybody else is going to be GPP options for me. All right, switching over, let's go ahead and talk. Do you want to talk about Detroit now?
Yeah.
All right, we
can talk about Detroit.
Not Detroit. Memphis is what I was thinking. But yeah, we can talk about Detroit too.
Okay. Memphis, I don't want to talk about currently because now that news from Grayson Allen where he was expected to be more doubtful, he's currently he's a game time decision now. So we can touch base on it actually real quick. We can talk about Memphis. I think the Memphis pitcher is pretty clear and concise as well. I think Desmond Bane is going to make for a decent cash option if you're looking for a cheap salary saver. If Grayson Allen sits, if he is in, that being Grayson Allen, I definitely think he's more of a tournament play. So yeah, I ran numbers with Grayson Allen and Ja off the floor, and they're actually pretty outstanding. And in terms of value that we're getting on the sheet, Matt.
Yeah.
I just don't really like the matchup. I think there's way better games that you can target, but I still think there is some really good value here.
Okay.
I talked about Dylan Brooks in that first game with Ja Morant off the floor going up against the Celtics. Obviously, they got annihilated, so wasn't too competitive. So the minutes weren't really there for some of these studs. But Dylan Brooks at 6,300 with those guys off the floor, 8.8% usage bump, 1.04 fantasy point per minute, and a 34% usage rate. Rates out to a 6.1 on our sheet. I have him pegged currently at 38.47 DK points. So do the math off his price tag. Should be able to get you that 6 times value if this game can stay competitive. He's just going to knock down some shots. I mean, against the Celtics, he was 6-18, 2-9 from 3. So he's definitely going to be the guy that the offense does fall on with Ja. And now if Grayson Allen is in or out, we still have to figure out what's going on with that. But I really like him. Kyle Anderson's another guy. I think these guys are more tournament plays for me.
Yeah.
Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark, Kyle Anderson, Dylan Brooks, and then Desmond Bane. I have interest in all of them. It's just I need to now monitor Grayson Allen. If Grayson Allen is out, it's obviously going to make me like these guys a little bit less. But if he's in, it's going to make me like them a little bit less. If he is out, I'm definitely going to like them a little bit more. So I think there's value there in Memphis if that game can stay competitive.
You just got to look at the over-unders on this. 220.5 is tied for the second lowest, TJ, and you know this. I mean, Atlanta, Brooklyn, 244, which is insane. We have San Antonio up there. We have Milwaukee, Chicago. We have all these other games, Minnesota, Washington we just talked about, even Golden State and Portland. I mean, there's so much potential in these other games in terms of value and these teams that have upside. Yeah, I can see some of these players I'm getting behind, rostering one, maybe two spots. But again, you have to expect the over-under to hit the over on 220.5 to even for them to even smash value in big tourneys. So yeah, strictly GPPs for me, and even then I'm only taking one player from maybe one of those teams. But Memphis, I mean, there's so much going on here with these injuries. Morant, Jackson, Melton, all of these guys are out, and they have a very, very thin rotation. It's just that the ownership also scares me because it's a little high for me. You're looking for safe plays. Obviously these guys are on a thin rotation, but the upside is capped in my opinion just because of the over under. So yeah, that's my opinion. That's my take on this Memphis roster. So let's go ahead and switch over to the Detroit Boston game because that has a lot of value in it as well. However, they're going against your Boston Celtics, and that's pretty terrifying. Yeah, it's pretty terrifying. Yeah. So they're an 8-point favorite right now. So they're predicting it to be a little competitive. So what are your thoughts on that?
No. Yeah, no. If it can stay competitive, I obviously have a lot of interest in these Detroit guys, especially with Blake Griffin being off. Jeremy Grant, Matt, has been outstanding to start the year for Detroit. And with Blake Griffin off the floor, he gets a 1.7% usage bump. He's averaging 1.46 fantasy points per minute so far with Blake off the year to start. And he is garnering a 25.4% usage rate. He's a 7.43 on our sheet. So even at 6,800, I have him currently pegged at 50.5 DraftKings points. So I'm going to love him for tournaments. Again, I hate the matchup against the Celtics. Yes, the Celtics are very good defensively. But even still, I'm going to go with my numbers and what I ran and trust that and hope that Detroit can potentially keep it competitive so that, Grant can play 32, 34 minutes and these guys aren't, seeing the floor in the fourth quarter. Plumlee, another guy that I'll be interested in at 5,700. He gets a 1.4% usage bump. He's a 1.24 fantasy point per minute. Josh Jackson, 5,200 currently, pegged at 28 minutes. He's a 1.26 fantasy point per minute with Blake off the floor, 23.6% usage rate. And then I think the cash option for tonight is going to be Saddiq Bey, especially if he does get the start at the 2 guard. We're still waiting to get confirmation. Killian Hayes is still questionable, so if he's out, that's going to make me really like Saddiq Bey. But at 3,100, he's pegged at 27 minutes currently, 0.76 fantasy point per minute. So it doesn't, nothing to really rave about. But even still, he's a 6.6 on the sheet, Matt. Should be able to pay off that price tag at 3,100, especially if Killian Hayes is out. Derrick Rose carrying some low ownership at 6K. I could get behind in tournaments. So these guys are guys that I'm going to be high on in tournaments just because I really like their upside if they can keep competitive with the Celtics, especially with Blake Griffin off the floor. Okay.
No, I love the fantasy.
But it's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game. I mean, everybody was on Memphis when Ja was out and they got curb stomped. So the Celtics tend to do that.
Yeah, and the Celtics played really good defense in that game as well. So,
yes,
and Memphis is the better team. So Detroit definitely terrifies me. Like you said, they have to keep it competitive. I'm really not on these guys. Saddiq Bey playing only 25 minutes, like we just talked about. Thaddeus Young, a way better value play. And there's some other value plays on the slate that are just way more obvious, in my opinion. Just because he's projected right now at 24 minutes, definitely scares me. I don't mind him. Just as a last piece, but again, if you're looking for a middle of the road type build, I'm not going to be looking at guys like Saddiq Bey. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Do we have any more chalk plays here on the slate?
I mean, we can talk about the Atlanta and Brooklyn game. I don't necessarily think we have. Butler's back from Miami. We talked about Detroit with Blake Griffin still being out. We talked about Memphis with Grayson Allen now questionable, which is unfortunate.
And then Denver, we haven't even touched base on.
Yeah, we haven't talked base about Denver, but that is because we're still kind of pending Jamal Murray, I guess. It says he'll be available for Friday. They're hopeful that he'll be available. So we can talk about Denver as if Jamal Murray is going to be in and just Michael Porter being ruled out if you want to.
And Michael Porter, COVID-19. Okay, so that's kind of scary for the team. Because if they're going to pull a Bulls where one person gets COVID and goes against the health protocols or whatever it was the other night, and the entire team ruled out, that's going to shake things up for sure. We don't know what's going on in Chicago. But yeah, Denver, yeah. If Michael Porter is out, somebody else is...
Michael Porter is out.
Yeah, Michael Porter. Yeah, sorry. If Jamal Murray is out, obviously all aboard the Denver train. Michael Porter's out officially. Are you looking specifically at just Jokic? Where are you looking?
The Jokic price tag at 10.6 is definitely something that intrigues me. Again, we've talked about this guy every single slate. He's an absolute animal. He's a triple-double beast. He's been so consistent to start the year. So if Michael Porter, if Jamal Murray's going to be out, that I'll probably lock Nikola Jokic in cash. But until then, he's kind of on the fringe for me. I wouldn't hate spending up. I kind of would rather. There's some other options that I'm interested in that we haven't talked about in terms of cash, but I definitely don't hate Jokic. Will Barton is definitely somebody that I'm looking at too at 5,500. He gets a little bit of a boost with Michael Porter off the floor. Where are you, Barton? He gets a 1.2% usage bump, 0.95 fantasy points per minute, and a 22.5% usage rate, which is third highest on the team behind Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. And like you said, if Jamal Murray's out, Monty Morris at 4,700 is definitely going to be in play. So I have some interest in these Denver guys. The ownerships are really low, even with Michael Porter off the floor. I think you can go to Jokic as a spend up spot tonight in cash. I wouldn't hate landing on Will Barton as a last piece. I think there is some better value out there, even with Michael Porter off the floor. But we really got to monitor Jamal Murray, because if Jamal Murray doesn't play, that means, Denver's going to be a really good team to target.
And like I said, the whole COVID news scares me. Same thing with the Bulls a couple nights ago. I think it was literally yesterday, where their entire team got ruled out before lock, and then it was all aboard the Chicago train. All their guys hit value. So if that's the case, late night hammer is going to be coming from Denver, in my opinion.
Matt, also JaMychal Green making his Denver debut tonight as well.
Another good point.
It's looking like he's playing. So, I mean, that's some minutes at, the four guard, at the four that can eat some of those minutes that Michael Porter would be playing.
Right now he's projected at 16 minutes. So,
yeah.
All right, let's talk about Atlanta and Brooklyn, because again, one of those guys has to have a ceiling game, right? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Trae Young, your boy, at 8.5%? I think you like him for GPPs. 10.1, such an awkward price tag. That's the only thing.
I mean, I have a lot of interest in this game again. We just saw Atlanta, and we just
lived
saw
up to
Brooklyn
expectation. We're watching an all-star game.
Yeah, there was absolutely no defense. For some reason, hold on, I gotta find this tab. 145 to 141. I wanted to make sure I had that. I wanted to make sure I had that correct. That score. Yeah, 145 to 141. Absolutely no defense. So Trae Young at 10-1, Matt, is a guy that I'm gonna look to in tournaments again. Only 8 of 18 shooting. He didn't hit any threes. He got to the line. He's gotten to the line 14 times or more in his first 4 games. That is absurd. That's a guy that's being aggressive, taking it to the hole, not afraid to get some contact. That's insane. So he's averaging 15 free throws a game on the year. That's great. Sorry, I thought it was a football update. So that's crazy. I really like him at his ownership. I'm seeing him at 3%. So if you're seeing him at 8, if we want to call him 5-6% owned in tournaments, he's somebody that I'm going to be looking at. John Collins had a huge game against Brooklyn. In 30 minutes, he had 48 DraftKings points. I still think he's really cheap at 7,200. Bogdanovich is a guy that got a price bump. He was 4,800 against Brooklyn.
Time.
Matt, in these types of games, we love to attack shooters. Yeah, it is about time. So even at 5,400, I easily think that Bogdy can pay off that price tag. So I have interest in him. But yeah, these guys are just showing so low ownership that they make for really good tournament plays, especially in this really high over-under. And I would say my order in terms of favorites for Atlanta, it would probably be John Collins 1. I'd say Bogdy 2, Trae Young 3. But yeah, I have interest.
Reddish
in,
too,
I have a
to
lot
be honest, $4,700.
Yeah, I know Reddish is in. Yeah, Reddish is there as well. So I have, Gallinari's out too. So I definitely have interest in these guys in tournaments.
Let me ask you this:
sure.
Do you like Clint Capella at all? He's playing 20 minutes or so in his first 2K. Okay, just wondering. We know Capella's upside, but $5,500. Yeah,
right. Minutes aren't there. If they let him off the leash, for sure, but not yet.
I honestly love every single one of these players. I don't understand their ownership whatsoever. They're all so underpriced still. Like Kevin Durant, 9.1. He's going to hit 10K if they keep playing Atlanta at this point. John Collins, 7.2. I completely agree with everything you said. I'm not going to repeat it, but Trae Young at 10.1. Nobody's going to be touching him over somebody like Doncic tonight, who's at 10.3. It just makes no sense. So Cam Reddish 4.7, Bogdanovic 5.4. Those are probably two of my favorite plays, just because, like you said, we like targeting shooters and high over unders. These guys should get plenty of volume. They did in the last game, and they both slam value. I'm not saying the game's going to be 145 to 141 again, but if it stays relatively competitive and is high scoring, one of the highest scoring games on the slate, it should easily hit value. All these players should easily hit value. The only person that was disappointing was Kyrie Irving, so I do like him. 6.1%. I understand his ownership now being the lowest on the team. Definitely like him as a GPP option as well. All right.
Yeah, we switching over to we going to Brooklyn? I didn't talk about Brooklyn.
I'm sorry. I was looking at everybody in the player pool. Sorry.
Yeah, you were looking at the player. That's why I was confused. You mentioned KD and Kyrie, and I was like, wait, did we talk about Brooklyn?
It's because you don't let me talk, so now I'm getting my...
You're so excited. I know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. We saw Kyrie against Atlanta shoot 10 of 27 and still put up 42 DK points. So I really like him as a tournament play. I currently have KD in my cash core at 9,100. I still think that's way too cheap for him. We saw what he just did against Atlanta 2 days ago. He put up 63 DK points, almost had a triple double. He's just 2 assists away. He asserted himself in the first quarter, which is something he's yet to do in those first 3 games against Golden State, Boston, and Charlotte. I think he's either 2 of 7 or 4 of 10 after the first quarter. I believe it was 2 of 7. So even though he was only 2 of 7 shooting, I like that he was actually putting up shots in the first quarter. DeAndre Hunter will play. Okay, that's good. He was probable for Atlanta, so that's good news. Good. So yeah, if this game's gonna be just an absolute shootout like we saw again, love KD at 9,100. I think he's a really good cash option tonight. I like Kyrie as a tournament play for sure. Jared Allen was an absolute beast off the bench against Atlanta. Joe Harris shot the ball really well. So I have a lot of interest in this game, Matt, in terms of tournaments, and I do like KD for cash. Yeah,
absolutely. And it just makes the value on the slate just that much more irrelevant just because you can get so much value in some of these shooters like we just talked about. So I like these guys for upside. I really do. I know it's obvious, guys, but it's really not. If you look at the ownership, it's actually pretty contrarian. So definitely like the ownership here. I don't want to jump too far ahead, TJ, but it's 6 o'clock. I think we should start getting into some questions and maybe the cash locks on the slate. Okay. Unless you want to jump into GPPs.
We can, whatever you would like to do, Matthew, we can do.
I feel like we went over GPPs roughly throughout the entire slate, so that's the only reason I don't want to jump to that. Okay. So
we can, go ahead.
Yeah, let's get to our cash core. If you had to do a cash core right now, where are you looking?
So if I were to make a cash core right now, I'd be locking in Raul Neto. I'd be locking in, I do like D'Lo at that price tag at 7,500. I think that's cheap. In that really high over under, the second highest over under that we have on the slate. So I really like Nato. I really like D'Lo. I really like KD at 9,100. I really like Beal also at 9,400. I really love Tatum too at 8,600. I don't necessarily think he's a cash play. But if I do have him in my cash lineup, I feel confident in it. Sadiq Bey is somebody that I could get behind at 3,100, especially if I'm looking for value. Because if I want to pay up for, Beal, KD, Jason Tatum, D'Lo, those are all guys that are 7,500 plus. 2 of them being in the 9K range. So I'm going to have to find some cheap options. And, Sadiq Bey is, I think, a guy that could fill that out at 3,100, especially if he starts. Desmond Bane was somebody that I was interested in at 3,700, just as a last piece in cash. Again, looking for some cheaper value. But with Grayson Allen now questionable, something we have to keep our eye on. So I think if Desmond Bane, isn't the play, if Grayson Allen does play, I like that Thad Young call that you had, Matt, at 3,500. I think he's viable. Naz Reid, Ricky Rubio, both at 5,200. So I think, those guys that I just mentioned are all cash viable in my eyes. And we didn't even talk about my guy, Rudy Gobert, who's just been absolutely beasting, but yeah, we did. Who would you consider your cash core for tonight? As I just gave out 10 guys.
Yeah, no. If I'm starting a build, guys, these are the 3 I'm starting with, and they're all going to be value plays, and it allows you to get flexible with your Kevin Durant's, with your Kyrie Irvings, with your Bradley Beals, and your D'Los. You got to start with Nito. Nito at an 8 point per dollar value right now, 33.7% owned. I know that's your obvious lock, but that's your free square. You got to get him going, and cash and GPPs. I also know that Naz Reid isn't that chalky, but right now he's showing a great value for looking back to last season. I wouldn't let recency bias hurt you in this one. 5.2K. He has to get it going against Washington. There's no excuse. We've seen him crush his price tag, especially given the minutes. We've seen seen him play over 30 minutes last season when Cat was out. I think we can see another opportunity to do that again. I absolutely love Naz Reid, especially coming off a bad recency bias game, keeping his ownership actually relatively low. If he played what he did or how he did last season, he's going to be one of the chalkiest guys in the slate. He has to be, especially against Washington in a high over-under. My last piece is going to be Thaddeus Young at $3,500, 6.9K. I don't really need to say much about that. The rotation's so thin for them, $3,500, and his minutes are way up there. 25 minutes is what they have him projected at right now. I think he could play more, honestly, and he's a great fantasy point per minute player, averaging 0.92 fantasy points per minute. Those are my 3 cash locks. I don't think you go anywhere else, honestly. I think you start your builds right there. High over-unders in all those games as well, so I think those are very obvious plays. But as far as your studs, I guess you could fill the rest of the lineup. I know TJ literally gave his lineup out on stream like 3 nights ago, and I think you took what? You got second place in that GPP.
Yeah, I give my lineup out every night if you guys pay attention. I did it last night, and I won $1,000. Like, you just got to pay attention. I mean, I list basically my core and then my fillers as well. So if you want my lineup, it's mostly hidden in the stream. I mean, last night was obviously different because when Siakam got ruled out, I pivoted to Van Vliet, Powell, and Lowry. But that's why you got to be in the Discord. I went over it as soon as I got home from picking up Chinese food. With 10 minutes to spare, I said that Norman Powell is my favorite play for Toronto now. Then Fred Van Vliet. I literally put him in order. I went Powell, Van Vliet, Lowry, and then I think I put
all those guys at value.
Fourth. Van Vliet and Powell crushed it. They were both in the optimal, by the way.
Yep. The actual optimal. That's another great point, TJ. I'm sorry I haven't got to do my marketing scheme yet. It is the very first of the year and month, which means Patreon does restart, guys. So now is the time to grab the full value of what Patreon has to offer. It restarts every single month. Patreon supports the stream first and foremost. So if you guys love if you love what you see and you guys want to get into a Discord chat, first of all, think of it as a $20 donation, but if you want to take your game to the next level, $20 gets you access to all our favorite leverage plays, GPP plays, and live updates throughout the entire night. That is one of the biggest benefactors for NBA in general. So again, $20 a month helps support the stream. And again, guys, I work my butt off every single night to get you guys my favorite plays, updates, and again, it's updated ownerships as well as fantasy production. So all that's on our leverage sheets. All right.
Now, I also forgot Spurs value too, with Aldridge being out. I think you can go.
The thing with the Spurs is Derek White is
Rosen too. Yeah, but
he's a great
I get that, but
usage guy.
Jakob Poeltl isn't really going to be affected by Derek White. I think that's going to affect guys like Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson, maybe DeJounte Murray. I think DeMar's still going to get his, and I think Jakob Poeltl's still going to get his. So I actually like them as cash options too.
Just in terms of the over-under, I think Naz Reid is still a more obvious option. San Antonio Spurs aren't projected to score as many points as them. So again, talking about cash, I still don't think Hurdle makes that cash option, but I love him for GPPs, in my opinion.
I think his ownership's going to creep up, honestly.
It's already gone up a little bit.
Yeah. If Naz Reid can stay on the floor and not be so incompetent defensively, then yeah, he's going to be fantastic. I have him in my cash lineup right now, Naz Reid. But I am contemplating Jakob Poeltl instead.
You know how much I love Naz Reid.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get some questions.
Down. Yeah, let me check the Discord. Go ahead and get to the first question.
Yep, the Discord. Oh yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. 203 of you in here. You guys are the best. Seriously, please smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and have that notification bell on so you get every single time we go live. You guys can get in here and listen to our sweet non-copyrighted music that Matt provides, which is pretty trash. Happy New Year's, eating lasagna and hearing y'all news. I love it. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you coming out, man. Appreciate everybody wishing the Happy New Year's too. Someone said Jakob Puddle. Love it. Pirtle and Puddle. Yeah, I don't know the correct pronunciation. If it's Jakob Hurdle, Matt thinks it's Podle. I think it's Hurdle.
It's Hurdle. It's Hurdle. I accepted it. All right, real quick, I'm gonna get to this question. We only have one.
Yep, go ahead,
thoughts on Russell, Nato, Bay, Young, Reed, Beal, DeRozan, Jokic. Love that. I love that for GPPs anyway. You're fading.
After Naz Reid, who do you have?
Reed, Beal, DeRozan, Jokic.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. What was that? Why are you so stressed?
I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to think because you have it in front of you. I'm trying to let you know what I mean. Let's see here. We have James Wiseman or Naz Reid for DFS tonight. Definitely Naz Reid, especially with Draymond being back. First night for Golden State. D'Lo or McCollum for GPP. I like McCollum. He's been fantastic to start the year. He's actually averaging 1.35 fantasy points per minute so far to start the year, and Dame's averaging 1.16. So just a little tidbit. Now, I don't know if you agree with me either, D'Lo or McCollum for GPPs. I think McCollum's ownership is probably going to be a 10th of D'Lo's tonight.
Real quick, favorite GPP options from Joey. That's a pretty big question. So there's a lot of them. I'd say a bulk of my favorite GPP plays are coming from this Brooklyn Atlanta game just because of the ownership. The ownership's so low. But my overall favorite play is actually going to be Kevin Durant, just because it's pretty self-explanatory. Cam Reddish is also my second favorite at 2.7%.
Let's see here. Chips is snoring on the couch. Lonnie for GPPs. I'm a little scared with Derek White being back. So I'm gonna stay clear of Lonnie Walker. But at 4,500, I mean, I guess I don't hate him if you want to take your chance in tournaments. But Derek White, another mouth to feed. I'm all set for now. Val looks good, to be honest. Yeah, I don't hate Val tonight going up against Charlotte. I have some other plays that I like there in Memphis. Dame or Curry? Steph for me. I'm assuming tournaments. What's the max number of players that you should stack from a game? I'd say 3 max.
Yeah,
probably be my,
and 10-game slates, I would limit it to 2, though.
Yeah.
It's pretty. Yeah, if you in big tourneys, at least.
Right. Yeah. Lillard or Curry? Yeah, we just answered that. So a couple. Oh, Des, that was you again. Okay. Yeah, I lean Curry, Matt. I don't know if you agree with me, but
who's between Lillard? You said.
Yeah, Dame and Steph.
Yeah, Steph. You gotta go Steph.
Royce O'Neal, a good play. He's a decent value play for Utah. I'm not in love with him at 4,200. He logged so many minutes. Played 35 last night against Phoenix. I mean, he's gonna see 34 minutes, I feel like, every single game. He is currently averaging 0.61 fantasy points per minute. And his usage rate is an 8.7 right now on the year. So it's a lot of standing in the corner and watching, the likes of Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley dribble around. So Jordan Clarkson when he comes off the bench. I don't hate him as a tournament play, but I don't like him for cash. What's a good account to okay, fantasy. What is a good flex? I have 5,300 left. I'm leaning Josh Jackson. All right, so a good play at 5,300 doll hairs. I do like Josh Jackson, like I was talking about. If you don't have Naz Reid, if you're playing cash, I like Naz Reid. If you're playing tournaments, I would probably lean to Josh Jackson. Yeah, I think he has some high upside. It's a tough matchup against Boston, but if Detroit can keep it competitive, he could definitely pay it off. I also don't mind Brandon Clark at 5,100, honestly.
Real quick question. How do you feel about Rozier and Graham against the Grizzlies since they struggle against guards and they both are most of the offense? Don't mind it. Again, the only thing I have to say about that matchup is the low over-under. There's so many greater over-unders. I highly doubt this will be even close to the highest over-under. That's the only thing. If you're looking for big tournament plays, I'm going to probably avoid that game altogether. I'm looking at games like Atlanta, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Chicago, and Portland, Golden State for GPP options.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I actually think that Devontae Graham's usage has been down since acquiring Gordon Hayward this offseason. So I between those three, I will always say Gordon Hayward is my favorite in tournaments. Nato and Bane, good picks. Yeah, so Desmond Bane is I really liked him with Grayson Allen being out, but now he's questionable, so we have to kind of wait what's seeing what's going on with Grayson. How do you feel about D'Lo, Desmond Bane, and Podol for cash? Like D'Lo, like Podol. I know Matt's more on Naz Reid. I think you can get away with either one now with Aldridge being out. And Desmond Bane is a toss-up currently.
They're just more small tournament plays. I definitely like all of them. It's just that the ownership's not going to be there for you. So if one of those sucks, well, you're not looking at a good night.
Matt, Derek White will have a minutes limit off the bench.
I expected that.
I wish it told us.
Yeah.
I wish it told us how many minutes, but
well, with Pop, does it even matter if it tells you?
Yeah, no, I guess it really doesn't because he would lie straight to our face. Otto Porter or Barton for cash?
Otto Porter, Barton. I gotta go Otto Porter. I really like Otto Porter as a GPP option, though. If Murray is out, then obviously all aboard the Barton train. But again, that's a late night pivot.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm probably, I'm gonna say Barton. I think that game has a way better chance to be more competitive.
Murray, Walker, DeRozan.
Yeah,
Oh,
Walker's actually
okay.
Walker's starting at the 2 again. Okay. So yeah, I guess I don't hate Lonnie Walker as a GPP play. DK Core Cash, NATO, Beal, Russell, KD, Jokic. Yep, I like that. What's separating the cash plays and GPP plays? Is it just ownership? Can you have players that are both? You can definitely have players that are both. Ownership is definitely a
We
big
just got an
differential
update
there.
in ownership real quick. Let me just go over that. NATO went up to 39.5. D'Lo is the second highest owned. Donovan Mitchell is the third highest on the slate, TJ. Interesting. $6,800. We didn't even get a chance to talk about Utah, but Utah is pretty undervalued in general. Quick thoughts on that.
I think I was dyslexic and thought Donovan Mitchell was $8,600.
Okay.
That price tag is abysmal. What 68? I swear to God, I thought Donovan Mitchell was $8,600. Killian Hayes active. So
listen to
that's the
this.
thing.
Donovan Mitchell is now a great value, and ownership finally caught up to it. So that's a last minute update for you guys. Not really an update, just an update in ownership. Thomas Bryant, TJ, jumped up in ownership to the fourth highest.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And then Thaddeus Young, no surprise there. Naz Reid's still up there, but that's the top like 6 or 8.
Thaddeus Young. All right, I'm gonna bang through some of these questions, Matt, that we got here. Okay, clearly I'm not, 'cause I can't speak. Jokic looks good today, definitely. Do you guys like Plumlee tonight? Tournament play. Thoughts on Ish Smith instead of NATO and GPPs? Good luck. Freezing cold take, somebody said. Okay. Thoughts on Jay Crowder and his ownership? Very low, good tournament play. Brooks still very solid for sure. I like Dylan Brooks. Just gonna shoot the ball a little bit better. Jokic is pronounced with a Y and not a J. Yes, Jokic. That's why I say Jokic. Matt says Djokovic or something. It's gotta be
Joker though. That's his nickname, Joker.
No, you're trash. McCollum or Beal? Beal for cash. McCollum for GPPs. Util, Gobert, DeRozan, Hayward, or Collins? Cash line. Gobert. DeRozan for me. Matt?
I wasn't listening to you.
Util for a cash line. He's got Gobert, DeRozan, Hayward, or Collins.
DeRozan.
I like DeRozan. I would go DeRozan, Gobert, Collins, and Hayward in that order. Sadiq Bey or Tyus Jones for cash? I'd say Sadiq Bey. Why
they're not
is
even
ownership
close
so low?
to prices, aren't they? Are they?
Sadiq Bey and Tyus. Yeah, they're not even close. I think Tyus is at 5,200.
That must be a
Bey is at
FanDuel.
like 3,100. Yeah, it's probably a FanDuel question.
Yeah.
Why is ownership so low in Atlanta and Brooklyn?
Good question.
People are dumb. Favorite GPP spend up. Favorite GPP spend. I probably have to go. I mean, I like KD in cash. So if you want to call KD tournament, that's fine.
I mean, ownership's okay.
I would say my favorite is dude, Luka's at 10%. So
I know
I guess
Luka's such a good option too.
No one's talking about Giannis against Chicago. If Chicago keeps this competitive, Giannis goes for 70.
Everybody hates Doncic this far in the season, and I love it.
He's been letting people down.
He sucks. Yeah. Been sucking.
Desmond Bane is a good cheap choice for today. I do think so if Grayson Allen sits. I'm playing Middleton, Levine, and DeRozan. I hope that's a tournament. Thomas Bryant.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Matt.
One more minute, TJ. I just wanted to jump in real quick.
Okay. Thomas Bryant or Reed? Reed for cash, Thomas Bryant for tournaments. Gordon Hayward, good tournament play. Bogdanovich, Jackson, or Barton for FanDuel? Oh, that's tough. I say Bogdy.
Bogdy. Yeah, I agree with that.
That's tough. I like all those guys, though. I think they're all good tournament plays. Gobert or Jokic for GPPs? Again, what's the price? There's got to be some FanDuel guys coming in here. Gobert or Jokic for GPPs? I lean Jokic there. But I do like Gobert.
Why is Rudy Gobert more than Donovan Mitchell?
Because he's been balling out. Thoughts on Brooks and single-ender GPPs? Yeah, he's going to shoot 20-plus times. I'm stacking the mid-price Atlanta and Brooklyn. I like it, Bryant. I do like KD as my favorite play in that game. I just scrolled down and lost everything. Thoughts on Culver? I like Culver as a tournament play. He's very cheap, and he's going to get up shots. It's just if he can actually hit him. He's over 10 last game.
All right.
Butler or CJ for GPPs? I like CJ. Hold on, Matt. A couple more. Brooks or D'Lo? Brooks versus D'Lo versus Booker. Are you asking which one out of the three?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
For GPPs, Brooks. Yikes. Jokic, Beal, or Durant for tournaments? I like Durant. You guys are giving us some wide range of players in terms of prices.
Yeah, I really got to update the ownerships. It's giving me anxiety, TJ.
Okay, last one. Shamit or Contra for cash? Contra, if you want to go there.
Neither.
All right, guys. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, neither.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Happy New Year to everybody. Again, really appreciate all the support, guys. We've been absolutely crushing NBA. Again, $20 a month gets you leverage sheets, all of our favorite GPP plays, cash stuff, all that good stuff. It is the first of the month, so sign up today if you guys want to gain an extra edge. We will be in the Discord answering questions. With all that being said, guys, have a great rest of your night, and let's cash. Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys. Thank you.